If you wave to strangers, what happens? Because this is what happened as a foreigner in China. Hello!
One thing I for sure knew about China growing up was that if I dug a hole deep enough, I would get there.
What does
that mean?
I have no idea.
小红书
I know this message is more critical and a bit long, but I think it's necessary. We should stop overgeneralizing each other. Even positive overgeneralizations can lead to negative consequences. And I'm really concerned about this tendency to idealize China as this utopia. But the reality is we are also facing a lot of challenges here, and we are working very hard to fix them. And it's always an ongoing process. In China, there is a term called 捧杀, which means when you overpraise someone, it can lead to disappointment and backlash. And that's why I'm worried. When you have fantasies about China and these fantasies collapse, that can lead to even more severe antagonism between us. Both China and America are vast nations with profound complexities. I believe most people on both sides are diligent and kind, but scammers and racists do exist in both societies, as they do in any part of the world. For example, I've heard people saying there is no racism in China, and I don't think that's true. Ethnicity and gender-based biases do exist, just as they do in any part of the world. When people join this platform expecting that this is a haven free from racism, disappointment is almost inevitable. Even though most of us definitely share a sincere desire to eradicate such prejudices, they still persist, unfortunately. Among 100 friendly comments, it is not unusual to see 4 or 5 that are impolite or offensive. I'm truly sorry about that, but this is just the reality, and it's important for us to recognize it. So there might be cases you encounter some scammers and racists and generally speaking impolite people on this platform. Please report them. As you may know, aggressive individuals often make louder voices and they cause more harm to a community that consists of a majority of friendly, ordinary, quiet people. But we can try to shut them down by reporting them. At the same time, we must acknowledge that most Chinese people have never been directly exposed to a Western context of racism. And we actually have no obligation to conform to a Western standard of behavior. That's because many cultural nuances require prolonged exposure to be understood. Even for those who have visited the United States as tourists, it is unlikely that they'll learn, for example, why people of color is a proper term, but colored people is considered offensive. So if some language feels a bit awkward and improper, but overall it's well-intended, it probably reflects cultural differences, but not antagonism. It just takes time to acquire that cultural nuances, and it's just unrealistic for all Chinese people to do so. I think to judge the language of Chinese netizens on a Chinese native platform through a Western lens or an American lens specifically is unfair, and itself might be a form of bias. I really hope we can continue approaching each other in a respectful and sophisticated way. Despite all these challenges, I still think hearing people from different backgrounds telling their own stories can have a lasting positive effect. That's good for all of us. In China, we always say 求同存异, which means we try to find the common ground but preserve our differences. And I think that's probably the only sustainable way for our community to grow healthily. So protect this community, report those who are harming the community, and let's keep the good vibes going.
You got that right. I don't talk about dark side of China. Not much. I have good reason. I'll give you 3. Number 1, my own experience was mostly positive. So if I'm not lying, I will tell you positive things. I grew up in a really poor village in China, and our family during the past 40 years just doing better and better each year. It's positive. And myself doing better. I went to the best college in China because of relatively fair education system. I can't complain about that. I went to US, came to US after college. So my experience is mostly positive. Number two, that I don't know for sure, but I feel that you guys are getting way too much negative dark side already, and it's obscured heavily. Think about it. In the past 40 years, China has made so much progress. 1 billion people like me, life become better almost every year. That's how much positive things happening. Count how much piece of positive news you got about China. Something's wrong here. Number three, dark side. I think the dark side of China and the dark side of US are exactly the same. It's a small group of people are getting more than their share. That's the evil of it. We are all victim of that. It doesn't matter whether you are in US or whether you are China. That's the biggest problem. And whether they do under the umbrella of a communist party or socialist country or a democratic country, if a small group of people getting more power, more money, and more privilege than average people, that's the dark side. And we share that problem, and we need to talk about that. And this group of people are really good at direct us to focus on the fake enemy. Right now, your fake enemy is China. What did China do to you? China was a scapegoat right now so that you don't focus on those little group of people, that we Chinese have that group of people too. And we need to unite it.
Chinese men stereotypes that are actually true. Number one, Chinese people always stick together. You won't find many Chinese people hanging out with other ethnicities like Japanese, Korean, Filipinos, or Vietnamese. They always stick together, even to the extent of always working for a Chinese company. Number two, they love their language and refuse to learn other languages. They hold a very strong loyalty to their language, even to the extent of living in America for 20 plus years and barely knowing any English. Not even just America, I had a Chinese driver in Korea that lived in Korea for over 10 years, but barely knew any Korean because he mostly worked with Chinese clients. Number three, they love their luxury brands, specifically Gucci and Louis Vuitton, and they love Apple too for some reason. They love the Gucci slippers and the Gucci tees. Last but not least, they love their Teslas. If they're Asian and driving a Tesla, most likely they're Chinese. This mainly applies to mainland Chinese people, not ABC people.
Provincial stereotype of China. Lazy. What province is lazy? There's only one contender. Hainan. It's an island. It's in the most southern part of China. Okay, Hainan people has really owned this reputation of laziness. What we call them lazy, they call themselves leisure. It's a beautiful island. And people there, they will never do overtime. They will take 3 hours lunch break, take a nap. I've never visited there, but I should go. A song jumped into my mind. It's not about this, but it's about Guilin, also a beautiful place. But the song goes like, 我想去桂林啊，我想去桂林。可是有时间的时候我却没有钱。So basically the song says I want to go, but when I have time, I don't have money. When I have money, I don't have time. So we are too busy. So a lazy province, a leisure province should be a place we should go to visit. Hainan. The second largest island of China. Okay, that statement is gonna get more hate than saying Hainan is lazy. Because what's the largest island of China? Taiwan. Now I'm in trouble. But it's kind of historical fact, okay? So in the Civil War, Hainan and Taiwan are the last two places in the war that the Communist Party trying to defeat the Nationalist Party, and the last two holdout is Hainan and Taiwan, the two largest islands of China. So if they fight a little harder, Hainan will kind of just like Taiwan, right? So, but now Hainan belongs to the mainland. It could go either way, which means Taiwan could go either way. And both sides still call themselves China. So, and Chinese living in the island. So, even no political biases. There's just nothing wrong saying Hainan is the second largest island of China.
I'm glad you've watched to this extent. Kindly like the video if you haven't liked the video, and if you're new here, consider subscribing. So in trying to clear the misconceptions around China, it's very important for us to also mention that China isn't a perfect country, and when we are analyzing China, we are exposing the positive things that were shadowed by the negative things that are portrayed by the Western media. So, but it's so unfortunate that people are so eager, they're really digging deep to see what is negative about China. But we are speaking about a nation that has been developed, that has been able to accomplish so much in only 30 years. And this is so exceptional in the world. No nation in the world has been able to do this. And this is a nation that has been painted regressive. Just imagine this lady who spoke of an American, she said, I used to think that if I dig deep, I will find China down there. So that's how low China had been taken while all these things are happening, while all this development is happening, while tremendous change is happening. So that's the reason why we are sharing these videos. If you look at them as propaganda, then travel to China. That's the only thing. And I love the way Chinese are putting it. If you think this is propaganda, then don't think about moving to China. Travel first. Travel to China. Travel to China and you'll believe. And you'll know that it's not propaganda. I wonder why is it hard for people to believe that China has got to this level? Why is it hard? We know it is not perfect. We know that human beings are never perfect. And it's not in China that you're going to find perfect people. People have their flaws, and China is big. But a great percentage of people are good. They're good. I've seen videos of Americans speaking of being adopted. We want China to adopt us because I wish. And another comment was saying, I wish I was born in China, an American. What is propaganda? Thank you. What is propaganda? Travel to China. If you think it's a propaganda, travel to China, kindly. But we are trying to repent, to give China the respect it deserves, the value due to it, because they have worked hard. Have you seen their kindergarten? Why are you surprised that they are able to accomplish this much when they are babies, can cook, their babies can do hair, their babies can... Did you watch that first? Thank you. I appreciate you for being here. Thank you for your support to Comfort for Life. Let me stop here. I appreciate you for your continued support. Goodbye for now.